Welcome to the Spike Camp podcast. Spike Camp is a free online community for hunters that support conservation. It's a great place to share stories and your experience with other hunters. As a member of Spike Camp, you get access to all of our hunting live streams, discussion channels, contests, hunter resources, and events that we host. Membership to Spike Camp is free. Our only ask is that you are a member of a hunting or conservation group before you register. Head over to spikecamp.com to join us. This episode of the Spike Camp podcast is brought to you in part by Precision Optics. Omer and his team are the ones to trust when it comes to mountain hunting gear, guns, and optics. Precision Optics is a major supporter of conservation, and we are proud to partner with them. Head over to precisionoptics.net and tell them that Spike Camp sent you.
Blake and I are very excited to chat with tonight's guest, Brandon Roth. Brandon's been a Spike Camp supporter from day one. He's a family man and a proud member of the Wild Sheep Society of BC. Brandon also has his own YouTube channel called Hunt and Harvest BC. And Brandon's just an all-around good dude, and we're very happy to have him on the show. So, Brandon, welcome to Spike Camp. Maybe you can give us a little bio on your background and history and stuff.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's pretty exciting to be on here, to be honest. My name is Brandon Roth, 35 years old. I live in Telkwa, just outside Smithers in northern BC. Born in Dawson Creek, but raised in Kitimat for most of my life. We've been in Telkwa now for almost 11 years, I think it is. But grew up in Kitimat, fishing, doing a lot of outdoor stuff, but never hunting. That was just something that my parents never got into. It was never really when I was younger. We used to go stay at my Oma and Opa's in Dawson Creek every year for the last 2 weeks of August. And they had their own property in like 80 acres. And we'd always just get up super early and he'd be like, which moose should I shoot? And there'd be like 3 big bulls bedded. And he'd shoot one every year for that open moose at the end of August. And that was basically the only engagement I had with hunting growing up. I just see him shoot it, and then that was pretty well it. He'd just load it up with the tractor, and away it would go. But yeah, always grew up doing outdoor stuff. Always very passionate about what I was doing, whether it was quadding, paintballing, building and racing drag cars, mud boggers, stuff like that. I always loved everything I did, but I never had that feeling of like, this is it. This is what I'm going to do forever. And when I got introduced to hunting at a later age, I think I was 27, and killed my first animal, which happened to be a black bear in the fall. And I was just instantly hooked. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
So, your grandpa back up in the Peace Country there, was he a hunter like his whole life, or was that something he picked up with the farm and whatnot?
Yeah, he started doing it when they moved to Canada. I think he was like early 20s, something like that. But he only did it to fill the freezer. He wasn't out there for the adventure, the camaraderie with other hunters, or seeing the landscape. Mm-hmm. He was specifically just trying to save money and put meat in the freezer. Mm.
Well, and there's nothing wrong with a grain-fed moose.
Yeah, 100%.
I've gone to Alberta, I think 3 times now for moose, and it's literally, I've killed quite a few in BC as well over the years. And I think if I had a choice over a willow fed versus grain fed, it's probably going to be grain fed because it's just so 100%. Good. That's a nice intro into the fine dining of big game hunting. Is, you know, first big game animal you taste is a grain fed moose. So that's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So the term adult onset hunter is something that gets tossed around a lot. For me, it's interesting. I find it a really interesting subject just because of, you know, my background and my kids and everything. I was kind of born into a hunting family, and Blake and his brother and sister, obviously, I had them out at a young age. So, like the concept of adult onset hunter, to me is very interesting. Just in terms of finding out the process that somebody goes through when they're learning how to hunt, and I'd like to kind of unpack that a little bit with you. So, so you said you took it up when you were 27. What prompted you to do that? Like, what was the final thing, I guess, that said, Brandon, you got to take this up?
I when I was going to school in Prince George, I met one of my really good buddies there, and he lived in Smithers, and he was a hunter. He kind of grew up hunting, and his wife was a hunter. Their whole families were. And when I moved here, he just said, like, you need to go get your core, and start hunting. Like, you just have to. So I was like, okay, let's do it. I'm interested in trying new things. I've always had the willingness to always try new things, and it was something that he told me that it was just amazing and you had to do it. So I did.
Well, you definitely are exposed to it in that country. I've hunted a little bit in the Smithers area, and I mean that it really is like just a beautiful part of the country, and I'm a little jealous, but that's cool. So you started off with core. Was this buddy of yours, was he really like a mentor type of person for you as you went forward, or did he just get you started and then you were on your own?
Honestly, to be completely honest and not to say anything bad about my buddy, but he convinced me to get my core. I got a rifle and all that. And I've only hunted with him a handful of times since then. I kind of just started watching like YouTube videos like crazy on hunting deer and hunting bear and anything that was open in our area. And I just was like hunting by myself majority of the time. And I didn't really hunt with them at all. But
well, so trial by fire, huh? That's the way to do it.
Yeah. It's hard to find that right person. Like everyone says it's harder to find a hunting partner than it is a spouse. And
I would agree.
Couldn't be any farther from the truth.
Well, I always say the best way to find a hunting partner is to raise them from young. So that's kind of what I've done too.
Yeah, I'm working.
It's worked out. Yeah, exactly. Oh, that's cool. So then you get your core and you get your hunting license. You said black bear was the first one you went after, right? To cut your teeth.
Yeah, I was hunting deer at the time, and I was truck hunting, and we came up into this big field and we started hiking the tree line, and I just spotted a bear on the other side of the field. Snuck into like 80 yards and shot it once. It ended up just being a big sow, which I'm happy with. I think it's a good conservation thing as well, if there's no cubs and stuff like that. But
yeah, for sure.
I shot it, and you see those kids that get videos of them having like buck fever and stuff like that. That's exactly how I felt the first time. And I only shot it once. It ran like 20 yards and piled up, and walked up to it. And I immediately went on YouTube and looked up how to gut a bear. And
cell service, so it was right there.
Yeah, it was actually fairly close to town. It wasn't like crazy far out. So I had service, watched a video on how to do it, and I was like, okay, and grabbed my knife and got her done. Took like 5 minutes. And it was pretty easy. Took it home. The wife was like, what the heck is this? And we hung it up in the shop. I skinned it out. We deboned that entire thing, butchered it ourselves, and packaged everything ourselves, ground it all ourselves, and everything like that. So we actually do that with a lot of our bears, where we'll do like cubed and roasts and steaks and all that stuff as well. We don't just turn it into pepperoni right off the bat. And it's actually her favorite meat still to date. Like everything that I've harvested, she prefers bear over anything else.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's definitely you either love it or hate it as far as black bears go. I think as far as the meat, I've got my experience with black bear. wasn't the greatest. It was very early on in my hunting career. I shot a bear. It was hot. We struggled to get the bear out in time. It was questionable whether that meat was honestly edible or not, and we butchered it and brought it home. And my wife's first couple bites, she just like did not like it. So unfortunately for me, bears are not really something I'm bringing home all that much. But I still want to get out and get after them. But yeah, that's interesting. So as far as resources outside, you didn't have much of a mentorship, it sounds like, and you were basically an internet educated hunter, I guess, for the most part.
At the beginning, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did, like, my brother-in-law, he kind of hunts a little bit, so we went out a few times for deer. And then, like, I was in the process of trying to find the right hunting partner too, so I was going out with different people quite often, trying to learn as much as I possibly could, see if we were on the same page in regards to how we wanted to actually hunt and ethics and stuff like that. I'm not the kind of guy that wants to go camp and just drink for 3 days straight. I want to make sure I'm actually boots on the ground hunting, and I prefer a lot of hiking and stuff like that. So I was trying to find someone that worked well and we meshed good together. I did hunt with my one buddy, Salem. He's the one I actually did my very first goat hunt with. And we are on the same page, but then he had some life stuff come up where I haven't been able to hunt with him since. And it's been like three years now.
Mm-hmm.
And where I'm working now, I started here about 2.5 years ago, and that's when I met Anthony Kalubi. So he and I worked together, and we've become really good friends. And me and him are like on the exact same page when it comes to where we want to go, how we want to do it, what we want to hunt, and just wanting to spend time in the backcountry. And me and him have connected really good there, and it's been perfect. So we're planning our trips like every year together now. And so it took me like 5 or 6 years to find someone that I wanted to spend that time with in the field, that I could trust and get along with and not hate each other by the end.
Yeah, and that's one backcountry hunt, and you figure out whether or not you're compatible. It comes really quick, right? You figure it out. And, when you think about it, at least in my world, time is precious, right? That's, a shortage of time is the enemy of everything, right? And you go out and you do a hunt with somebody and it turns into a disaster. You got to wait till next year and then you try it again. And I feel for you. Sounds like that's one of the biggest challenges, right? Is just finding that hunting partner, I would say.
Yeah, I do get to hunt quite a bit with my dad. He didn't grow up hunting, but then there was one year where I had a moose tag and nobody to go with, and I convinced him to come freeze his ass off with me in a trailer with no heat in the middle of nowhere. And he absolutely loved it. So that's something we've done every year now for the past 6 years. He and I always make sure we go at least once a year together, regardless if we have a tag or not. And so I ended up helping him get his first moose, which was pretty special, and teaching him how to do it and how to gut it and all that stuff.
Yeah, cool. For sure.
I
saw that one on Instagram. It looked like it was a real nice bull you guys got too. That's awesome.
Yeah, and it was, to be honest, like the year before that, when I had it was my very first moose LEH. He and I went out and we covered so many kilometers, hiked into so many different spots, and we honestly didn't even see a single moose. And but we just loved being out there together, where we were, the scenery and all that. So we've just put in every year since. We've been fortunate enough to get the tag quite a bit. So the year after, he and I went again. That's when he was able to get his first bull on like the third day. And we were pretty slack. We're like, we busted our balls last year. This year, we're just going to chill, take it easy. We were actually like going out to go grouse hunting, and then ran into this moose, and we were able to set him up, called him in from like 300 into 110. It was pretty sweet.
That's cool. So does your dad live at Smithers as well, or does he have to travel to hunt with you?
He has to travel, but he's not far. He's in Kitimat.
Oh, okay. That's not so bad then.
Yes. No, so it's like 3 hours from here.
Yeah, cool. So one of the questions I have for the onset hunter is, how did the gear list look when you started out? Because I know what my gear list looked like when I was raising kids, and it was some pretty shitty stuff, man. What did that look like for you when you started?
In regards to like just hunting deer and bear and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need much, to be honest. Like to get out there and start hunting, you honestly don't need much. I'm still using the very first gun that I bought, and it's like a Savage Axis 2. It was $500
Mm-hmm.
with a scope on it. I've changed the scope in the last couple of years, but I'm still shooting that same gun. I think I bought like a $25 buck knife from Walmart and a pair of camo pants and a long sleeve for another $20 or something like that. And that's how I started for the first 3 years. And then I bought like some hunt shield stuff from Canadian Tire for the cold months when I'm moose hunting and stuff like that. And it wasn't until I started mountain hunting is when you're like, okay, this is going to start getting a little more expensive, but it's definitely worth it.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, right? If you look back in history, I love to read all the old hunting books, like the Jack O'Connors and, some of the old classic books. I've got quite a few of them. And you look at how tough those guys were back in those days, with the Trapper Nelson packboard, cowboy boots, blue jeans, wool jackets, cowboy hat, hunting stone sheep in October in the snow. And like, it's just unbelievable, right? And here we are crying because we get a hot spot on our, on your toe or something.
Yeah.
Right? It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Those guys are definitely built different for sure.
Very much so. Very much so.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite hunt so far? Favorite story?
Man, like it'd be a toss up between my bison hunt and my goat hunt with Nathan, where he was able to get his goat. Both of those hunts were amazing. The bison hunt I did, I think that was my second year hunting. I put in for a tag, and nobody would go with me. And I called up my one buddy from Kitimat, and I was like, "Hey, you own a sled? Do you want to go chase bison?" And he was all aboard, like ready to go. So that was pretty sweet. And we drove like 1,300 kilometers, sledded into a spot. We stayed at that Sickney River Ranch, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Up by Pink Mountain. We ended up renting a room there. And the first day we went out, we had no idea what we were doing. We're just sledding around the mountains, basically looking for tracks and poop that wasn't frozen. And the first day we actually ran into a group of hunters, which ended up being that Rachel Attila, I think her name might be.
Yeah.
She was guiding.
Outfitter.
Yeah, she was guiding for bison up there, and we ran into her. And she actually gave me some good insight and a spot to go check out. So that's what we did the next day. And we were sledding and looked up, and there was 3 bison there, and we got off and chased them on foot for a couple kilometers, and we were able to get one, which was pretty sweet. But
so question for you there. So you didn't have cell service there, and you didn't have access to YouTube. So how did that field dressing process go with an animal that weighs almost a metric ton? That's got to be a little different.
I watched, I don't know how many YouTube videos, to be honest. And my uncle had done that hunt in the past, like 20 years prior. So I drilled him for a bunch of information and stuff like that too. But yeah, no service out there, no nothing. And it wasn't that bad. We did the gutless method.
Mm-hmm.
So it had it on its side, tied the 2 quarters up, and then skinned it out for a rug and all that, and just started cutting quarters. And that was the first time he or myself had done that way, and it works perfectly, to be honest. It's so good. So we did that. And that day too, my buddy convinced us not to bring the skiffs with us.
Right.
Because he's like, if we go unprepared, we're going to get one. and he was right. But
He's not wrong.
yeah, so we ended up quartering it all out, doing the gutless method, getting all the meat off, putting it in game bags, hanging it in trees, and then it was a 40-kilometer ride back to the ranch in the middle of the night on sleds. And I ended up breaking the sled that I was borrowing from my employer at the time. And then the next day, we met these guys from Quesnel, and they were there just like ice fishing. Their buddies had tags, and they were off hunting, and these guys were just going to go ice fishing. So I ended up doubling with one of those guys, and they rode us all the way back to where we had shot it and helped us bring all the meat and everything out, which is pretty sweet. And then the next day, we left and came home. It was pretty quick trip. But
so what month was that hunt? Which
that was December. I think the tag is December 6th to the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it used to be zone A and B, and now it's C and D because they changed it.
Yeah, they changed it around. Yeah.
Back. Yeah, and that was the north side zone that we were in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a hunt I've never been on. I know my uncle, who passed away about 10, 12 years ago, he's from the Yukon, and he used to solo bison hunt. And he would go snowmobile way back into the backcountry into a First Nations hunting area that he had an arrangement with them to use one of their cabins. And he shot a couple of monster bulls by himself, like 120K in the backcountry. Made for some pretty interesting stories. He had one situation where he got he was in one of the cabins, the cabin he was staying in the snow. It snowed overnight. And in the winter, when you get all that snow packed, you actually go down into the snow to get to the door. And it snowed overnight, and then he had the fire cranked up on the inside the cabin, of course, stay warm. And he wakes up about 5 o'clock in the morning to go take a leak, and the door's frozen shut because he melted all the ice on the front of the door. He was actually trapped. The snow was all the way around the windows. And he told a bunch of great stories about that. But I mean, back to your story. That's a big jump from, black bears and stuff to go on to a bison hunt like that. So that must have been a little bit intimidating. What would you say your biggest lesson was on that trip? What did you learn?
I make sure your equipment's good before you leave, because the sled I kind of just put on the sea can and loaded it on the truck and left.
Yeah. For sure.
And I think we were even as dumb as going out, and we didn't even have like an inReach or his Oleo or nothing like that either.
Back in those days, yeah.
We're leaving the ranch, and we're like, this is where we're going, and kind of just waved at the cook and left. So like,
yeah,
more safety equipment for that kind of work, that kind of hunt.
What was the temps? What were you seeing for temperature on that trip?
Oh, honestly, it was actually gorgeous. Everything was frozen. It was like super cold for the whole week leading up to when we were there. But when we were there, it was like 0, -1. Like, it was super warm.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've heard guys, getting in there and it's -40 for the whole week. And then, anything in -40 anything mechanical is going to break down on you for sure, right? Like, no doubt it's going to happen. So.
Especially if you don't have like a windshield on your sled and you're clipping along in -40, that wind chill is just going to break.
It's going to eat you alive.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about mountain hunting for a little bit here. You mentioned your hunt with your buddy Nathan. Now, he's out of province, right? He's an Alberta boy, I think, right? You did the Hunter Host.
He's Fort Mac, yeah.
Right on. So how many years into your hunting career did you go before you did like your first sort of backcountry adventure hunt where you're going in the alpine and stuff?
Yeah, so I think I was it was going to be my 4th season. That's when I was like, I want to try something different. My buddy who I went on my first goat hunt with, we put in for the same MU. We actually both drew tags that year. And then he was very experienced in the mountains. Him and his dad grew up hiking a lot. So I was super confident with going with him. He was like me. Like, I started hunting a year or two before he did. At this point, I think he had shot maybe 1 or 2 bears. And I was like, this is something I want to try. I want to see if I'm even going to like it, if I can even do it physically. And he was like, yeah, I'm all for it. Let's go. So we planned for a 5-day trip. It was like the first long weekend in September. And yeah, I borrowed a pack from a buddy. I borrowed a spotter from another buddy. I borrowed an inReach from another buddy. And just borrowed basically as much gear as I could, because I couldn't just afford to go out and buy this big whack of gear and cost 10, 20 grand, whatever, right?
Yeah,
So I
exactly.
borrowed a bunch of gear. At that point, I already had the scree stuff, so I was good there with the actual clothing and rain gear and stuff like that. So yeah, he had a tent. I had like some Caribou Beer Company sleeping bag that my wife bought me for $20 at a garage sale. And I bought some Chinese air pad off Amazon for $25 and ended up getting a hole in it. And just doing it as cheap as possible. And that's one way I started doing those meals too. Because I just wanted to try and do it as cheap as I could, because I wasn't sure if I was going to like it or not.
Oh, okay, interesting.
We drove out. I think it was like 2.5 hour drive from where we live, and then it was about a 2.5 hour hike into Alpine, and to go over into the next valley where the goats were, it was another like 2 hours or so. But as soon as we went up and crested over, and I seen the whole valley, and then I saw white spots on the other side moving around, I knew instantly, like, this is amazing. I want to do this every day of my life if I can.
Yep.
That's what initiated the fire for mountain hunting, was that first trip with him. Neither of us were successful at shooting a goat. Both of us learning. It was a huge learning experience for the two of us. I think we glassed up like probably 60 plus goats while we were in there for 5 days. They were just all the spots that were unable to get to, couldn't retrieve them if you shot them, or they were just way too far away on other mountains and stuff like that. But that's what got me completely hooked and started on the mountain hunting.
So there's a lot there in your first hunt. Like, it sounds to me like this is a great intro to mountain hunting, right? Like the Caribou Beer sleeping bag and the Amazon pad. Yeah. No, and that's so cool, because at the end of the day, it's about the adventure, right? You want to get out there, you want to learn and try. What was your biggest takeaway after that trip? Like, when you came off that mountain, I'm sure you had some goals in your mind. So tell us about that.
Yeah, like coming off the mountain, I just knew I wanted to go back as soon as possible, basically. Once you get up there and you see it for yourself, and the amount of country and how open it is, and it's so close to home where I am, it's unreal. Like the spots that we went, not many people have ever been there. People that will live here for their entire life will never see country like that, because they don't leave their house or whatever. They just have different hobbies maybe, but I just wanted to see as much country as I could, see as many goat. I just want to see goats. I don't even care if I shot one. I just wanted to see them. And yeah, like my biggest takeaway was just how fast could I get back up there.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, it's an interesting transition from I guess from hunting lower country or moose, deer, bear country, to going into those big mountains and getting on those backcountry adventures. And thing that I learned over the years, and I know Blake too, it's like every year you gain knowledge and you gain a little more confidence. And the confidence side of things, I think, just comes with time in the mountains. Knowledge, of course, same thing. But mountain hunts can be scary as hell, right? Like, can be intimidating. It's physically challenging. I know the first couple of mountain hunts that I did, where it was full backpack trips, I was like, oh my God. My biggest takeaway was, I am so freaking fat and useless. This is ridiculous. Like, I gotta train, right? And here I am, right? Today I'm 56. and I'm hunting with, a sub 30-year-old who can just hike me into the ground. And I work my ass off every year. I could work more on training, but I feel like today I'm in better mountain shape than I was like 7, 8 years ago when I kind of got into this. How did you adapt to that? Were you training before this first hunt, or did you pick it up after? Or?
I did a little bit prior and probably mostly because I bought a set of boots, like some good Mendel boots. So I wanted to break them in before going up, which I definitely didn't do enough of, and I definitely didn't train enough prior to going up either. So that is like a huge thing. Even just like, you don't have to be light as a feather. You can still be a big boy and get up there, but just having your cardio a little bit better and stuff like that prior to going up, that's to me is super important. And if every year, like you're saying, every year you just get better and better and better and better. Like, you know what you need to do, because the hunts, sometimes they just get harder and harder and harder. But that's
and I think there's a point too when you're on those big climbs where, I always struggle with this, where it switches back and forth from a physical challenge to a mental challenge, right? You're grinding your way up to the top, and your brain is telling you you're a loser, you shouldn't be here, you're tired, your leg hurts, your back hurts, your feet hurt. And then, this amazing transformation happens after like 3 days, right? When you're up in the mountains, all of a sudden, there you go. Everybody says day 3 is, the turning point usually for a mountain hunter to realize, hey, I can do this shit. I'm getting better. And you know what? You didn't change physically that much over 3 days. You didn't get like 50% stronger. Your cardio didn't improve by 40 or 50%. Your mental side of your game improved. And, to me, at least that is as important, if not more important, than the physical side, right?
Yeah. And like you said, every time you go, like, your courage goes up more, you being more comfortable back there. Like, that's all, the more you do it, the more that builds and the better you'll be too. Like, that's super important, big time.
Yeah. So fast forward then. So you guys, no tags cut on that first mountain hunt.
No,
you did it again, right?
Tags
you guys did another hunt?
No tags cut on that hunt. And then I immediately came home and messaged like everybody I had who had goat tags. And I was like, let's go. Like, I need to go more. This is something I want to do, and I want to do it as much as I possibly can. So that year, I think I did probably 6 more goat trips where they were just either day trips or like 2 days, because the tags are so close to home. Like, drive an hour, hike for 4, and you're on the goats basically. I think that year I also went with Tyler from Wilderness Locals.
Just good buddy of ours.
He and I were chatting a little bit, and he ended up having a goat tag up here. So I did some scouting with him, and Anthony, myself, Ty, Ed Thompson, and another buddy, Tommy. We all got together for 3 days and did some winter goat hunting. So that was my trip for the year.
Yeah, we know Tyler really well, and I've heard his story and talked to him in person about it. And that's an interesting combination of guys on that hunt too, right? Like, when you unpack that, I mean, Ed's obviously a buddy of ours too, and he's the goat guru that we know and love up there, and he knows his stuff as much or more than anyone I know, to be honest. But there are a couple of younger, newer hunters on that trip, right? And you guys did a hardcore trip.
All of us really, like, that trip. So that year, that's the year I started working with this company I'm at now. And that's when I met Anthony. And that was his first year too, deciding to start hunting. And his mom had a goat tag for a while. I had a goat tag. So we were like opposite weekends on the same spot. And then we met here, and then I talked to Ty and he invited us to come along. And then we found out Ed was going, which was a no-brainer to go with them and learn as much as we possibly could. And Tommy was he's fresh to hunting in general. And like Tyler's not super fresh to hunting. Like I think he has the same amount of years as I do around that. But for the goat hunting portion of it, he was fairly new as well. So it was it was definitely a mix of different folks, but it was actually an awesome trip. The whole 3 days was great.
Right on. Yeah, no, it sounds like it was an epic trip, and there were some big lessons came out of that one too, right? And one of them was safety in the backcountry with the avalanche situation and all that.
Yeah.
So you guys, congratulations for making it out of there safe. I know would have been better to cut a tag. Well, I know you've improved as a goat hunter over the last couple of years. I mean, if anyone here is following you, then they should know the story, or at least know that there was some success there. Maybe tell us a little bit about that goat hunt.
Yeah, so that was last year, 2023. That was my first. I actually drew an LEH last year for the spot that I went goat hunting for the very first time. So this trip we went on was Anthony, his uncle Mike, and myself, and I wasn't even going to bring a rifle because we were just trying to go and get Anthony's uncle a ram. That was the main goal. So like I wasn't even going to bring a gun. I was just going to bring like camera gear and more food.
So this was a sheep hunt then? It was supposed to be a sheep hunt? You said ram.
It was supposed to be a sheep hunt. Yeah, that's what we were going up there for. We had, I think, 11 days. And we were going up there specifically to get Uncle Mike a ram. He's in his 50s, and he just kind of wants to get a sheep before he can. So that was
the feeling.
That was the plan to go up there. We saw a buttload of sheep. We saw a buttload of people. And I think it was like day 4. The rams that we were seeing, they were all like 7 or very close to breaking the nose. Nothing was legal. We were seeing different rams every day, but nothing was of age. So we ended up seeing this goat. Anthony and Mike spotted it. I think it was like 1,500 yards or something like that. And we're like, let's just run down this huge rock chute and try and get closer and get a better look at him. And the goat was basically watching us the entire time because we just went. There's only one way to go to get closer to him, and it's just shale rock. So we're just sliding down this hillside, trying to get closer. And got to like 800, glassed him again, and we all decided like it was a nice billy. And I didn't want to shoot it at first because I didn't want to ruin the hunt for Mike or any chances of Mike being able to get a ram. But Anthony and Mike both had shot goats last year, and they're like, "No, let's go shoot this goat. Like, let's get you a goat."
Okay.
So we got into like 400 yards, and he was bedded for a while. I think we watched him for about 45 minutes, and finally he got up and just started walking broadside alongside the cliff edge. And he went behind this big boulder, and Anthony and I ran down this little finger ridge a little bit to get a better angle on him. And he popped back out, stopped to feed a little bit, and Anthony let me borrow his gun, and I shot it once and dropped it. It was pretty sweet.
Nice. That's good. Yeah. So he didn't do the goat swan dive off a cliff or anything crazy.
He was close. He dropped and then slid, and his head was hanging over like a cliff edge that was like 80 feet. So it's kind of good that he didn't fall because he would have maybe busted a horn or got broken up a bit. And but where he was, we couldn't like get down to him to grab him. So Anthony actually had a roll of paracord in his pack. So we were all sitting back, and Anthony kind of crept down a little bit and did like the whole lasso with the paracord and lasso its hoof, and then we were able to pull him up to where we could actually work on him and take pictures and then break him down.
Wow. Yeah, that's a little sketchy, huh?
It was a sweet experience.
So yeah, no doubt. Congratulations. So did that, I'm just curious, did that change the dynamic of the hunt and turn it into a goat hunt from that point forward and pack out, or did you guys stay up there?
We stayed until day 9, but
Okay.
we
Gave it a
left
good
early
go.
just because the weather was going to turn for the last couple days. It was going to get pretty nasty, and it was really steep getting in there.
Yep.
So we're just like, you know what? We're day 9 already. We're not seeing any other rams. We'll just cut her short. But we, Anthony, we skinned out the skull and all that, and he turned lips. He actually packed salt up there as well, so we salted the hide, and everything was good that way. And same with the meat. We found a good glacier I dug down and then dug in, and we had it all in garbage bags and got it.
Yeah, perfect.
So wasn't worried about the meat or the hide or anything like that.
So as far as trophy goes, did you do a shoulder mount or a rug, or what did you end up doing there?
I did a shoulder rug or shoulder mount, sorry.
Yeah.
Shoulder mount with like a quarter turn sneak, I think is what it's called.
Yeah. Those are great, man. That's a good look for
brought
a
to a
goat.
guy here in Smithers, Northwest Artistry. His name's Garrett. He's actually doing Anthony's antelope as well.
I think he did my buddy Stone Ram a few years ago, and I'm pretty sure that's the same guy. Fairly new to the game. He's been in taxidermist for a while, but his own shop is fairly new, right? Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. And let's talk about the filming. You've got a YouTube channel, Hunt and Harvest BC. How'd you get into filming your hunts? What was the motivation for that?
Growing up, I just always had a camera. Like it kind of started with skateboarding when I was a teenager. My mom bought me this little camcorder thing and took like those mini VHS cards or whatever, and then I just recorded all my skateboarding with buddies and stuff like that. And I had a VCR hooked up to my old school computer, and you put the VHS in there, and you have to like play the video and record it on the computer at the same time to get everything onto the actual computer so you could edit it. And it started with that. So like growing up, I always had a camera. I was always playing around with editing and filming and stuff like that. And I started drag racing, same thing. Just taking pictures and filming that stuff, and then mud bogging and paintballing and all that stuff. I was always trying to make content or film stuff and play around. Like I just enjoyed it. It was really fun. So it kind of just came naturally within when I started doing hunting. I was like, I'm gonna film this stuff and film my mountain hunt so I can share it with my friends and family. And that's still the reason why I'm doing it. So I can, like, my dad and mom won't be able to do the stuff that I'm doing. So I like to take videos and I can share it with them and show them what I'm doing and stuff like that, and share it with my Opa. Like he sits in Dawson Creek and watches it on the TV. And
no way. Like, that's cool.
He just loves it.
Oh, right on. So I know a few guys that film their hunts, and they all say the same thing. It just adds a completely different element to your trip, right? Like now you've got extra weight, you've got camera gear, you've got batteries, you've got everything that's associated with that. And it has its moments, right? It's got frustrations. It's got, you got to deal with light conditions, weather conditions, cameras breaking down, rain, all that shit. How do you separate and prioritize the actual filming versus the hunting on a trip? Like, how much time is spent, I guess, on both when you're on a trip, and where do you put your focus? Talk about that for a little bit.
Yeah, I think it depends who I'm with as well. I do get like nervous trying to talk to my phone when I'm sitting beside a couple guys. It's kind of just like awkward in a way. So when I'm hunting with a bunch of other people, the camera usually just stays in the pack or in the bag. If I'm by myself, it's just so much easier, and it doesn't overtake any of the hunting or anything like that. If you have downtime, then you can take little clips here and there if you see something cool and stuff like that. But talking to the camera is a lot easier when you're by yourself, and when it comes to like actually trying to film an animal and shoot it and stuff like that, that is easier if there's two of you, because if you're not shooter and you're behind someone. But I don't want to make like with Anthony and Mike, I didn't want to be busting out the camera every 10 seconds trying to film stuff and stuff like that. So honestly, majority of that video I put together was when I was by myself. I took those clips because I didn't want to take away from those guys' hunt as well, even though I know it probably would have been fine. But I try to just be more in the moment with them and enjoy the whole hunt with them, and the camera kind of just stays put away.
Right on.
I'm not making films to try and like start a TV show or anything like that, so it's not like super high on my priority list when I'm with other guys. But
sure.
Yeah.
So what are your plans for content in the YouTube channel? Just sort of the same path, or have you got anything coming that's pretty cool?
I actually did buy a new camera this year, so I did upgrade that. Something that stretches out a little bit further, and the quality's 10 times better than what I was using. But the phone for everything close up works perfectly for that stuff. But this year I'm doing a bunch of goat scouting for different areas. I want to check out some new spots, so I think I might try and do like I don't know if you'd call it like a scouting vlog or something like that.
Yeah, just for sure.
A hunt. But with the new camera, I do want to try to make some cooler films and not just me talking. I want to try and do some cool B-roll and get some good clips and stuff like that. But it'll be spring bears when I'll start doing that, start recording that, and then I'll try and progress into doing the scouting vlogs and try and give that a go and see how that works out. But
right on. Have you played around with like GoPro or Tacticam or any of that stuff? Have you tried any of those?
No, I've know a couple buddies that use the Tacticam on their guns for when they're like coyote hunting and stuff like that, but I've never looked into them.
I think that technology is a little bit of a sort of a sleeper technology. It's starting to get better and better. You see some of the clips now are pretty awesome. We did that predator camp here a couple weeks back, and one of the guys from Saskatchewan, he uses that a lot, and they got some pretty good footage out of that. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it works really well from what I've seen.
That's cool. So do you got any brand partners that you want to put a shout out to as far as sponsors and stuff?
Yeah, I work with Scree Canada. I've been with them for like 3 years. And one day I was just on Instagram and saw like, Scree Canada Camo Company application for an ambassador. And I was like, hey, what the heck? Let's put one in, see what happens.
Sure.
And then the owner ended up reaching out to me, and we talked a bit on the phone, and he's actually a super deadly guy. And I've been working with him now for 3 years. That's where I get all my gear now, and it's great. Curtis, the owner, is super good. Everyone that works there is super good. Their warranty is top notch, and I've been really happy with everything coming from them.
No, that's cool.
It's pretty good.
So what's involved with as far as being an ambassador for a gear company? What does that look like?
Yeah, so like I do have a contract with them. To be honest, they're extremely lenient on what I'm supposed to be doing. There is like a set limit of I'm supposed to send in a certain amount of pictures and videos per month and stuff like that, but they understand like it's not hunting season. So when it does come around, I can send them some quality stuff and a big bundle of it, and they're happy. I'll be down in Chilliwack for the BC Outdoorsman show at the end of March. So I get to be involved with trade shows and stuff like that, which is pretty cool. So I'll be flying down there and be down there for 3 days for that stuff. And I think they're also going to have a booth at the banquet this year.
The Wild Sheep?
Yeah.
Cool. Are you going to make it down for that one?
100%.
Nice. We'll have to stop by.
Anthony and I were there last year as well. That was our first one.
Yeah, at Kamloops. I was at that one too. It's nice. I think the Penticton show is going to be, from all accounts and what I'm seeing, this is going to be epic, and I think it's going to become our industry big show as far as Western Canada and probably even the PNW goes. Kyle and the crew are doing a really good job. The trade show looks great. The venue's great, and Penticton's a fun town, so that'll be cool. That'll be awesome. Well, we'll have a booth there as well, so I'm sure you'll be stopping by, and we'll get a face-to-face visit there for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the other side of the hunt and harvest, the name, I guess, on the channel is the harvest side of things, which to me is, and personally, the main reason that I started hunting was to put meat in the freezer, and that's developed over the years. We pretty much, in my family, we pretty much eat, it's all wild. It's either wild meat or wild fish caught in the ocean, etc. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know you like to cook. You've got some pretty cool dishes. I've seen some interesting stuff on your social media. Tell us about your journey as a gourmet chef in the hunting world, or a household chef.
Definitely didn't start like that. That's for sure.
Right on.
But I think that's a big thing too. Like if you're going out and harvesting animals or shooting animals and getting the meat, you need to learn how to cook it. That's part of hunting. It's part of the process, like from field to fork, or what everybody says. And
yeah, exactly.
I just started playing with different meats, making different dishes, looking up different things, and like we make all our own sausages now, and it took a while to get something that we actually liked. But it's just another part that I enjoy aside from the hunting portion. And it also it just, when you go to eat something that you harvested, it brings back those memories, and you can reminisce about it and share it with friends and family and stuff like that. I think it's a big part of everything.
Absolutely. I've been down this road. It's been a long one for me, but on the sausage making and butchering side, I kept my notes from day one, and I started. I looked in my folder there. I just did like 4 weekends of sausage making here over the last month, and I kept notes. Somebody asked me a long time ago, "What's the best advice you can give learning how to make your own sausage?" And I was like, write everything down, because you're going to screw shit up. It's going to taste like dog food. In fact, your dog might not even want to eat it. You got to write down what you did and what you shouldn't do again, more than anything. So how long have you been making sausage then?
But since my first bear.
Oh, cool.
My very first bear, we saved like, I want to say like 40 pounds of it, or no, 20 pounds of it. And my mom ended up helping me do it, and we just made our first batch of sausage that way. And ever since then, we always keep some aside and try different things. I did learn that if you're learning a recipe and you don't know if it's going to be good or not, don't just mix up a huge 20-pound batch with all your seasoning and stuff like that. Try to take some out and add a bit and cook it and try it. Make sure you like it. Or like a 5-pound or 2-pound batch at a time, and then make it, try it. It's like, oh, if that's good, then make sure you put a star beside it in your notebook.
Yeah, for sure. Did you are you guys doing recipes from scratch, or are you picking them up from somewhere?
A little bit of both. I did get like an old, it's probably 40 years old. It's like a sausage making cookbook from my wife's grandmother. Her grandpa was like huge into cooking and canning and different recipes. So when he passed away, I got all his old stuff and all his old cookbooks, all his old notes, and that's what we based this off of. So some of them we've had like adjusted a little bit, or even ones out of a cookbook. It's too heavy on something, then you can pull back a little bit and make notes and stuff like that. But ever since my very first bear, we've been making sausages.
Yeah, that's cool. So I've done both. I've done the scratch recipes over the years, and And there were some good ones, and there was some interesting ones, and not so good ones. And with sort of the pace of life for me, I found, and convenience, I found Stuffer Supply in Langley, Aldergrove, which is literally 10 minutes from my house. And I would encourage anybody who's getting into sausage making, if you want a good place to start, is them. And there's a few other companies out there. I know Alberta's got one or two that do the same thing. But there's, I look at it this way. I'll take advantage of someone else's knowledge and experience to get a little bit of a step up. And, over the years, we've sort of developed the family favorites. And one of the game changers that we found was high temperature cheese in your sausage. Have you discovered that yet? Have you played around with that stuff?
Yeah, because the first batch of sausage we made, it was just like, oh, we're going to do jalapeno and cheddar. And we just went and bought a bunch of regular cheddar. Yeah. So when you actually ate the sausage, there was like no cheese in it. It was just all melted and gone, basically. You didn't get those nice little squares, the high temp stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Or they explode on the barbecue and you got cheese rockets shooting all over the place, right? You always get that too.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. So back to the dishes and stuff. So obviously you guys are eating goat and moose this year. Mm-hmm. And whatever else you got in the freezer. What's the family favorite dish? When Dad's cooking, what's the favorite?
It pains me to say it, but my kids won't eat anything that I cook. So
well, you need to get better.
My wife is the only one that'll eat the things that I experiment with, and if she doesn't like it, she'll tell me instantly. She's my biggest critic. So, but my boys, they I don't know what's going on. They're the pickiest eaters in the world. But for myself and the wife honestly just loves ground black bear and then just makes whatever she wants with it. That's like her favorite. Sure. That's her go-to. For me, I like the more luxurious dishes like sous vide tenderloin or smoked roasts and stuff like that. Like I put the time in when I'm cooking stuff. Like I don't mind taking 8 hours to cook a roast where she wants to have dinner made in 20 minutes, but
yeah. So do you run like a pellet grill or something? You run a Traeger?
I just have like a 4-rack Bradley.
Yeah. Yeah, I made the move to a Traeger a couple years ago and had a big gas barbecue and a Traeger. And after a couple of years, I realized the only thing I'm cooking on the barbecue is frozen hamburger patties, and everything else goes in the Traeger. So I finally just unhooked the barbecue and got rid of it. Now I'm 100% pellet grill. So not turning back on that one. So when you're making your backcountry meals, I know you use a lot of bear meat and you dehydrate and do all that stuff. And you said that you did that on your first hunt because it was a cheap route and affordable.
Yeah.
What have you learned in that process over the years? I bet you learned a thing or two.
Yeah. So at first I think I used moose for my very first trip because that's what I had in the freezer. And just dehydrated it again, watched some videos online on how to do it properly. I got a hand-me-down dehydrator from the wife's grandfather. So I use that, still am using that. I don't know, it's got to be as old as me, but it works great.
Still works, yeah. Good.
Yeah, it works perfectly. But at first, what I was doing was I bought those sidekicks. They come in like a green package. They used to be like $1. Yep. Now they're like $3. But I was just mixing that with ground dehydrated moose in a jet boil and just simmering it for like 10 minutes. And then I'd let it sit for 10. And it was great. It was a pain in the ass to clean after. So that's something I learned not to do. Because you go to make coffee and it tastes like teriyaki moose because you didn't wipe it out.
Yeah, I think there's another person sitting on this video live stream right now that learned that exact lesson a few years back after Dad warned him, and the sidekick in the jet boil happened, and then it was And that was like day 1 or 2 of our 10-day hunt, and it was bitching and moaning for the rest of the week.
Yeah, that basically wrecked one of the little containers.
That was awful.
That was a
It
bad
was
call.
awful. Every time he fired his jet boil up, it just, you could smell that shit burning, and it was like, that's a bad move, buddy. Bad move.
Yeah, so that's what I learned on the first one. After that, like I was starting to prepare for other hunts, so I wanted to try different things because I always like doing something different. So for the meals, I still do the sidekicks with dehydrated meat just because it's so easy.
Yeah.
And then I just buy those Mylar bags. Like I get a kit, different sizes, and I just dump my dehydrated meat in it, dump the sidekick in it, and it's basically good to go. And it doesn't really cost that much, depending on how much it costs you to go get your moose or something like that. But
yeah, we don't talk about how much hunting costs, Brandon. Okay.
Yeah,
You don't want to do that.
That's why I tend to use bear meat, because we always shoot like 2 to 4 bears a year, so I have a lot of ground usually. Cool. And it's I think I looked up the macros, and it has the highest calories for the amount of weight. So if you want to go lighter, it's going to give you the more calories compared to a moose or bison and stuff like that. And then I started dehydrating meals, like doing the marinara sauce and noodles, started incorporating that. So I usually do a big batch of that for like 4 to 6 days, and then the rest of them I just do the sidekicks with dehydrated meat and just mix it up for different days. You got to make sure that if you are going to do that, you buy the sidekicks that don't require milk. Just get the ones that require water, otherwise it's just going to taste funky. And so that's a thing to watch out for. For the breakfast, I actually watched a video with Aaron Snyder. It was like an old Kafaru cast video. Yeah. And he was making little breakfast to go things in plastic bags. And it was just like Harvest Crunch cereal, blueberries, and chocolate covered espresso beans and protein powder. And that's where I got that idea from. And I did that on my first hunt as well. And it just works so well and tastes great. I've just always continued doing it for every hunt that I do now.
Yeah, I think if you, and I've played around with this homemade backcountry meal program for quite a few years. First couple of years it was Mountain House, and I mean, you shit like the wind and you're thirsty all the time, and it's good, it's convenient, but honestly, man, it's the worst thing you can do for your body when you're in the backcountry, in my opinion. I'm not a nutritionist. I'm just a dude that's on the mountain. But we started doing the dehydrated meals, and then over the course of time, now but we make our own breakfast. We're not buying those prepackaged, freeze-dried meals at all. And the way we do it, I mean, I think it's like anything. It can be as complicated as you want to make it. In the case of the dinners, all we do is I rely on my wife and my mother-in-law primarily for meals, and we just give them the list of meals that we'd like, for example, moose or elk lasagna. What's your favorite, Blake? I can't remember. You've got a couple that your grandma makes.
Yeah, I mean, we do like the kind of like a smashed cheeseburger and like hash brown dish. We do all kinds of like kind of rice. We do the spaghetti and meat sauce,
Shepherd's
like all
pie,
kinds of stuff.
chili, spaghetti, sausage, all that stuff. And we don't deconstruct it. Like a lot of guys will do it in pieces and do it that way, but all we literally do, like for example, with my wife's lasagna is she makes a big tray of it, and then we just cut out a portion that we know we would eat. Like, how much would you eat, Blake? Well, he takes 2 pieces or whatever. And then all I do is just dice it into small pieces, throw it on the dehydrator, and just watch it. And then, to cook it on the other side, you just pour some water in and you just play around with it. There's no science behind it. But the one thing that I'll say about those meals, when you introduce home-cooked meals of any kind, doing them yourself, it's a huge morale booster at the end of the day. If you get your ass kicked and it's raining or whatever, and okay, well, I got 3 or 4 choices sitting back at the tent. and it's all home cooked stuff. It's a taste of home, and it's good for you. You know what it's going to do to your digestive system. It's all good. And I encourage everybody to give it a try. We've got a little sort of secret weapon snack, our favorite snack that we do. Well, mine anyway. I can't speak for Blake, but with homemade sausage, like it could be pepperoni or a chorizo or something, we actually make up these little mini charcuterie packs for each day. So we'll take the little single serve cheese packs that you get at Costco or at the grocery store. We'll buy a bunch of those. And then we'll take different flavors. Blake's got his favorites, but we'll take different flavors of Triscuit crackers and, throw those in, and then dice up the pepperoni or whatever it is, and just wrap them in saran wrap. Like some of the stuff you got to wrap to make sure, because the moisture seeps from one food item to the other. And then we just vacuum seal them in a flat little package about that big. And that's just such a cool treat when you're glassing. You sit there and you cut that thing open and just munch away. So,
Yeah.
Do you have any secret weapon super snacks that you like to take on a mountain hunt?
I don't know, to be honest. I think I tend to buy those like Jack Link's pepperonis that are like got good shelf life, and I'll get the packets of like 8. And then I know I have like 2 per day. And then my other packet is still good in the tent. It's not going to go bad or anything like that. But I haven't gotten as fancy as a charcuterie board.
Hey, you got to live large on the mountain, buddy.
One thing I do want to try, and I'm not sure if you've done this or not yet, but trying to dehydrate eggs. That's something I'd like to try for a breakfast, is like doing eggs and like peppers and stuff like that.
Yeah, like a dehydrated omelet or something. I haven't tried it.
Yeah.
I haven't tried that yet. I know, I think you can buy, Brandon Solutions in Calgary or Alberta, wherever they are, I think they sell a powdered egg. And I don't know if it's good or bad or not. I think I just saw it on their website, and I was thinking the same thing. But I haven't really researched how eggs will turn out. I haven't tried it yet, but
I haven't tried it yet either. There's a company out of Burns Lake, I think, or maybe Vanderhoof that makes them. But they're freeze dried. I don't know if that'll make a difference or not. But Anthony had a few of them on our last trip, and he absolutely loved them. So I want to try and do that this year and see if I can do eggs, and then do like a breakfast skillet or omelet or something like that.
That would be wicked. Do you take a little frying pan with you on your trips?
No, just the jet boil.
Yeah. Some guys pack a little frying pan and they'll do wraps and stuff on the mountain. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I've seen guys do that. I think for the breakfast one, I think that one for me is probably like really versatile, because I eat it hot or cold, basically just depending on the weather. And from eating it hot or cold, it makes such a big difference, and it changes so drastically. It's like 2 different meals, even though they're the same thing.
Yeah,
which is nice.
Yeah, I know Blake's go-to breakfast. He makes his own cereal mix and then uses powdered milk. And so, for him and I on a hunt, we hardly use any fuel at all. Like when we do a 10 or 12 day hunt, I'll have to check my notes from last year, but I think we used like 2/3 of a canister over 10 days. Because when you think about it, if he doesn't drink coffee, so he's not drinking anything warm or using hot water in the morning. I make a pot of coffee, and then I have an oatmeal, or not a cup of coffee and an oatmeal. So I think I'm boiling like 12 ounces of water or something like that. And then our dinner at night. So the stove only comes out of the bag twice a day, and once just for that small dose in the morning. But you play around with the powdered milk, Blake, and you like that stuff, right?
Yeah, the powdered milk was a game changer for me. I mean, my breakfast before, I always had a hard time with trying to figure out what I was going to do, because like back when we first started, I'd try everything from like packing bagels in the backcountry, and like that just is the least economical in terms of volume and weight and actual nutrition value and everything else. So then I've tested a bunch of ideas, and what I've got it down to right now, I've been really happy with, is Yeah, powdered milk, that was a game changer. And then I basically make like my own little like blueberry granola bowl with milk. It's not so much cereal. I used to do some cereal. I sometimes pack like 1 or 2 days worth of like a Vector or oatmeal crisp or something with powdered milk just to mix it up. But the granola, like just being able to, because you can put in any kind of, whatever granola and nuts and stuff that you want to put into it. And I buy those like dehydrated. I think they're actually now freeze dried blueberries is what I've switched to because they were a little less tart when I was eating them. So yeah, that's like my best. I'd say that's one of my favorites. I love it. And it's so easy, right? Like kind of like what you were saying, Brandon. It's like, I don't ever, like you sometimes heat up your breakfast, but for me, it's I just dump some water from my Nalgene in and like good to go. Very
good
easy.
To go,
yeah.
And the powdered milk, like, you prefer that over a protein powder?
Yeah. I know, Dad, you do some protein powder. I tried mixing in protein powder one year, and it was more a flavor thing, I guess, for me. Like, just didn't really suit my needs. But I know, Dad, you play around with the protein powder a bit, right?
Yeah, I do. I use that. I take a scoop of protein powder. So my breakfast is pretty simple. I use kind of I guess it's a sugar-free oatmeal that you get at like Save On Foods or Safeway. And I'll take it out of the package. I dump it in into a little Ziploc bag, and then a scoop of protein powder, and then I'll take some dehydrated fruit like the dehydrated apricot, and then some of the blueberries, and then just dump a little water. What we do with our freeze dried, we don't use Mylar bags. We haven't really played around with that, but we use these little thermos cups. Can't remember, GSI, I think they're called. Share something. I don't know. We'll post something up in the show notes on it. But it's just a little thermos cup with a screw-on lid with an O-ring in it, so it seals it really good, and it's got an insulated sort of liner that goes on the outside. And so that's our meal. It does. You can fit a whole dinner in there, and you can do your breakfast. So for me, it's a real simple breakfast. Dump that in, 2 or 3 ounces of water on the top of it, and then my coffee, and 5 minutes later, you're good to go. But we've been considering the Mylar bags see if that saves some weight, because you got your meals in a plastic bag anyway. But I think I went as far as the lightweight rabbit hole goes. I went far, if not too far, last year on a couple items. Blake's laughing because there was a couple issues. That could be a whole podcast in itself. But I pushed the limits when it came to a couple pieces of gear, and I learned a lesson on that. One of them was my boots. I had some really good boots that are really comfortable, crispy boots, and I went with their Altitude, which is their one of their lightest weight boots. Super comfortable. I trained in them all summer, and they were great, but didn't hold water back worth a shit, and that was a problem a couple days. Like, I was soaked. But yeah, so my pack weight is actually, overall gear and total weight is going to go up, maybe 2 or 3 pounds based on some lessons I've learned in the last couple of years. But my goal is to be 5 to 8 pounds lighter myself. So I'm hoping to offset that, but that just depends on the commitment. But yeah, the whole
pack, right?
Well, that's the way I look at it. It's a trade-off, right? So we'll see. But I also learned one of the key lessons I learned, and I talked about it when we interviewed Joe Appel. I didn't eat enough food the day before a really big push, and I had a bonk situation where I was like just a bag of crap. I could barely make it up to the mountain range, like to the summit where we needed to go, and it was after a day of rest, and I just didn't eat that day I was resting. Hardly ate a thing. And then when I tried to make that push, it was all I could do. I leaned on my partner for mental support and pushing me, and I got up there. But yeah, a couple lessons, and I think it's important, right? I mean, it doesn't matter how experienced you are in the backcountry on these hunts. You if you're not learning something, then you're not paying attention to yourself or your situation, right? So I try to learn something every time.
You have to.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. So on the gear side of things, what's your favorite piece of gear that's always in your pack? And feel free to plug Scree if you want, but there's got to be something in there that's like always there.
I know Anthony will give me shit for it tomorrow, but I probably my Scree Puffy. I take that thing everywhere. It's I wear it for almost every day, like when it's cold outside. It packs down super light. It's got its own little compression sack, and you just jam it in there, and it fits easy in the pack. But for clothing wise, it'd be that. For safety wise, it'd be my Zolio. And for my pack, I honestly like the Kafaru pack. I bought that this year, and it's been a big game changer. I love that thing.
So which frame are you running?
Duplex Light.
The Duplex Light. And which bag?
Hoodlum.
Yeah, good choice. Yeah, good choice. I see the Kafaro's got their new frame. They just released the Arc. That should be interesting to see how that.
I probably won't spend the money on it because I got other stuff to buy this year, but I'm really hoping that Aaron brings up one for the sheep show there because I'd like to check it out.
I would imagine he's going to have it, or he'll have one at Omer's booth for sure.
Yeah, I'm hoping so.
What's on the dream gear list for this year? What's the pieces you're buying?
This year is so I've been going 3 years with borrowing a spotter. So this year I'm buying a spotter.
Okay.
My buddy Nathan actually just sent me one to try because he's thinking about upgrading, and he sent me a Vortex Razor HD, like a 27 by 68.5. I actually just got that the other day, and it's been pretty cloudy out, so I haven't got a chance to actually use it. But I might purchase that off him. So it'll be a spotter this year and a new tripod, because the tripod I'm using is like almost 4 pounds. I think I bought her off Marketplace for like $60 3 years ago. So
yeah,
slowly upgrading. I went with comfort stuff last year, like a new sleeping bag, new pack. So that's what I got last year. And then this year will be more the optics side of things.
Yeah, and that's where the money is, right? Is optics. I mean, that's a dark hole. Anthony's chasing here. I saw that. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, Anthony, you had a question you sent me on DM actually to ask Brandon. Do you want me to ask it, or do you want to type it in? I'm going to leave that for a minute. We'll come back. But
clouds or no clouds is really a difference behind a vortex. He's Swallow for life. But
it's hard to go back once you go Swirl. I'll just leave it at that.
I know Ty was really grinding me about that too, and we were on our little goat hunt there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I'll tell you, it's very subjective in a lot of pieces, but I don't think there's anybody who's spent time behind any of the big 3 or 4, I guess, as far as the optics go, that they are a step up. There's no doubt. I mean, it's tough to argue. I'll say this though, to get where you need to get to as far as, expensive high-end stuff like optics, there's nothing wrong with working your way up. The used gear market is awesome. You can get great deals. Guys are always doing what you guys are doing. Buy something, try it, trade it up, save money.
Yeah.
There's always stuff for sale. I mean, Blake knows I'm a gear junkie, and I flip so much shit over the course of a year. It's not funny. And that includes guns, tents. I've tried every backpack manufacturer out there, and I just like to try new stuff too. So, but yeah, I mean, it takes a long time, and Blake's lucky because he kind of rides he rides along behind me in a lot of cases, and he gets a lot of the leftover stuff. Like,
yeah, that's a fact.
He's rocking a set of 12 by 56 Swaros that I picked up on a gun trade, and I'm running range finding binos as well. So it's interesting, but yeah, I mean, like, go back to those old timers, right? Cowboy boots, blue jeans, wool. Probably weren't running Swaro, 95s or ATX or anything like that back in those days, right? So it is what it is. For sure.
The spotter I've been using is just like an older Diamondback. I can find goats and sheep, but I'm not aging nothing with that thing unless they're 100 yards. But so I think this razor will be a pretty big upgrade. I'm still using like Vortex Crossfire HD binos, and like you said, like it doesn't really matter what you have as long as you're getting out there. To be honest,
exactly, and you're getting it done, and that's that's all that matters.
Yeah,
good gear doesn't kill animals, right?
No, that's right.
Yeah, right on. All right, so this is the part of the interviews that I like is like firing just random questions at people. So, what's your dream hunt if you're gonna pick one today?
Oh, I want to go to New Zealand and hunt stag. That would probably be my dream hunt. Stag and tar in New Zealand.
Super fun. I've done it, and it's definitely cool. Yeah, that's good. I've got a pretty cool mount of a tar and a chamois on the same mount that Ray Weens did for me, and I did a stag hunt on that trip as well. And New Zealand is cool, and you'll find anyone that's been there will tell you the same thing. New Zealanders are just Canadians with a funny version of our accent, and that's it. They're the same.
Yeah, that would be my dream hunt for sure.
Okay. What's your if someone said you're going to win whatever LEH draw in BC that you put in for, what is that draw? What's the species?
It would be the sheep tag I'm waiting on my results for right now.
Somewhere up north in those. Well, if you win that, you should. There you go. If you win that draw, then you should be able to find those sheep with your new spotter because they're white, right? So Anthony
he'll be there with his tomorrow too.
Yeah, there you go. You guys can have a contest.
Yeah.
Good choice. Good choice. So that kind of answers the next question: is what are the hunting plans for this year? So that probably that sets the table for the rest of your season, I guess, eh?
Yeah, so it's always like LEH dependent, even for the ones in the spring or in the summer that we get our results for. But right now, we're regardless if we get an LEH or not, I will be doing a sheep hunt this year and a goat hunt at some point. I do have some plans set in place for early August and end of August, or possibly early September, but it depends on the LEH for sheep. Anthony and I and his uncle have put in for the exact same area, the three of us. And if any one of us get that tag, we're every other plan that we've made with anyone else is off the table, and we're all three of us are going in for sheep. So,
well, that's cool. Yeah, that trip, a lot of guys will put in for that every year, and then they get it, and so many of those tags just nobody does anything with them. They don't make the effort. I mean, yeah, it is when you think about it, right? Like. You could dive down the political rabbit hole here, but you got to try and chase down these dream hunts as quickly as possible. I think caribou, obviously, a lot of grumblings, and pretty certain that we're going to see LEH for caribou up your way and north in your zone up there. And then, we're already there with so many other species, and the LEH system is, well, it is what it is. We don't need to get too deep into that one, but cool. What would your best piece of advice be for someone getting into hunting as an onset hunter in their, say, mid-20s and up? What would you say would be the best piece of advice for them?
Don't spend your money on a bunch of gear that you think you need, because you need the experience and learning over expensive gear. Just go out, try new things, and try to find someone that will positively help you learn new stuff that will progress you further in your hunting career.
Great advice. What learning resources would you suggest to that hunter or those hunters?
get a Wild Sheep Society membership and join Spike Camp.
Yeah, attaboy. Those are good answers. Love them both.
Yeah.
Well, we all know it's proven over the years that knowledge is shared at that sheep show, yeah, or any sheep show, or I guess any of those big events where you get like-minded people that you're going to get knowledge. We're trying to build that same sort of educational platform here at Spike Camp, and it can only happen with members that want to share knowledge and hunters like you that participate and support us. And I know Blake and I we were talking about this earlier. It's like, Brandon is just one of those guys who's been super supportive of Spike Camp since day one, and we want to thank you for that. And we look forward to seeing the content coming up on YouTube, and we're going to follow that closely. And make sure you stop by our booth in Penticton, and maybe we'll slide over and get a drink with you later on in that evening or something. We'll buy you a beer.
Yeah, I really look forward
Awesome.
to meeting you guys, and Anthony and I will be down there for sure. So
Awesome.
Yeah, it's gonna be a blast.
Yeah.
Well,
Last year was real. So
yeah, it was. It looked fun. I saw it. Like, it's funny with the Wild Sheep Society. You get the preview from their northern fundraiser, right? You get lots of clips and stuff. And that weekend, a couple of weeks ago, looked like it was pretty nuts. So we're looking forward to it. Like I said earlier, the trade show looks amazing, and just getting everybody there, I think for them, being able to have more people attend to is huge, because they're capped. Kamloops was capped on the attendance numbers and the dinners and all that stuff. But anyway, we look forward to it. We're just about at an hour and a half. We're pretty darn close to it. So I think we're going to put a ribbon on this episode. And again, thank you very much for your support, Brandon. We'll put links on the show notes for your YouTube channel and stuff. Blake will take care of that. And this episode will be posted up on podcast platforms in a day or two. So
perfect.
Cool.
Awesome, guys. Thanks so much.
Right on. Thank you.